Chapter 7. The Early CMM Years, 1995 to 2008. Though Sayadaw had stated his wish to do a one-year retreat, it was after just a few months that the lay Thai community urged him to come out of seclusion and resume teaching. They proposed founding a brand new monastery, which he could lead. Sayadaw again expressed his desire to practice meditation intensively, to which the community countered with another idea. They offered to buy a small house and donate it to him as a hermitage. It wouldn't be a wat, which is the Thai word for a Buddhist monastery or temple. Rather, it would be a meditation center for his personal use. Sayadaw offered a compromise. He would be the abbot of a new monastery but would spend at least 3 months each year on intensive solitary retreat. The community agreed. Within a few weeks, they'd already collected enough money for a $30,000 down payment on a $100,000 two-story home they found at Tropicana and Buffalo, across the street from Spanish Trails in Las Vegas. A generous temple supporter named Carolyn Wolfson single-handedly offered $10,000 toward the down payment. The home would be the community's new monastery. Although the new monastery house was sufficiently large for people to practice sitting meditation and take meals, Sayadaw and the rest of the community knew that a bigger property would eventually be needed. With additional fundraising, including a single donor who gave $70,000, near the end of 1995, they were also able to purchase 5 acres of undeveloped desert at Rainbow and Warm Springs, a mere 7-minute drive from the recently purchased monastery home. At the time, there'd been nothing around but open desert all the way south from Tropicana Avenue. The community paid just $100,000 for the acreage. It was purchased in Sayadaw's name. The generous woman who donated $70,000 toward the purchase of the land had originally expressed interest in paying the full amount. Unfortunately, as Sayadaw would later share, she had a heart condition, and he was concerned that the extra $30,000 expenditure would be a financial strain on her. Sayadaw told the woman not to worry, ensuring her that he would raise the rest of the money. Indeed, he did. 108. The Early CMM Years, 1995 to 2008. When we bought the property, we knew that it could be very difficult to get it zoned as a place of worship. We'd have to hire lawyers, have a public hearing, and go to court. And what would we do if we couldn't pass the public hearing? 4 families who were members of our community spoke up and said, "Don't worry about passing the public hearing. We'll just build homes around the temple." Normally, a temple might not pass a public hearing because the neighbors are concerned that the temple goers won't follow rules or that it will be too noisy. But we're a meditation center, so we had confidence that we'd be quiet enough and wouldn't disturb our future neighbors. Not only that, but the 4 families said they'd occupy homes around the temple, so we'd be in the middle. No problem. So as soon as we raised the money and bought the land in my name, we kept 2.5 acres for the temple and legally transferred the other 2.5 acres to those 4 families to build around us. The lots were divided between the 4 Thai families, one of which was the family of the woman who would become Nun Madhavi. They'd already paid for their portions of the land through their donations for the property anyway, and so in those days there was nothing else around, so we went to the public hearing and it was very easy to pass. Everyone was in favor. The 2.5 acres belonging to the temple received zoning for a place of worship, while the other 2.5 acres received residential zoning. And so, with the help of the Las Vegas Buddhist community, near the end of 1995, Sayadaw formally established Chaya Meditation Monastery in 109 Las Vegas Sayadaw, the 2-story residence at Tropicana and Buffalo. It was a moment of great celebration. The Thai laity who'd been Sayadaw's students and supporters at Wat Buddha Bhavana, as well as most of the Thai community scattered elsewhere around the greater Las Vegas area, immediately followed him to the new monastery. The vast majority of Sayadaw's supporters were the Thai lay people. The people of Thailand had treated him very kindly ever since his days living at Wat Khao Thach Rao. Still, he'd later comment that it didn't matter to him whether his supporters were Thai, Lao, Burmese, of which there were only about 10 individuals living in Las Vegas at the time, or otherwise. He never forgot their kindness. He would later say that he treated all of his supporters the same and loved them like family. Despite its English legal name, Many of the Thai supporters began to refer to the new monastery by its Thai name, Wat Chaya Dhamma Vihara, or simply Wat Chaya. And as more Burmese supporters joined the new community, it also came to be called by the Burmese name Zaya Dhamma Yaktha, a pilgrimage to Asia. In celebration of the establishment of the new monastery, before year's end, Sayadaw led 40 members of the Chaya Meditation Monastery community on a pilgrimage to Asia. The group spent 2 weeks in Myanmar, Sayadaw's first trip back since he'd left in 1988, and a week in Sri Lanka. After so much conflict, both countries were finally enjoying periods of relative stability. Sayadaw also made his second visit to India, where he spent 16 days touring the community around the sprawling country. In the northeast, they visited Bodh Gaya and the holy city of Varanasi. Varanasi was the location near where the Buddha gave his first teaching, Dhamma Kakkapavatana Sutta, or the discourse on setting the wheel of Dhamma in motion. The group journeyed to Uttar Pradesh in the north, where they visited Agra, a significant city 130 miles southeast of New Delhi. Agra is home to the famous Taj Mahal, the 42-acre site of a stunning mausoleum built in 1632. They also traveled some 28 hours by car southwest across India to Mumbai, whose name had been Bombay until it was changed that very 110, the early CMM years, 1995 to 2008 year. Mumbai is a massive western Indian city that in 2021 would boast a population of 20 million people. As they journeyed to Mumbai, the group stopped to visit a UNESCO World Heritage Site along their path, Ajanta Caves, which consists of about 30 rock-cut Buddhist cave monuments dating from the 2nd century BC. They also visited Ellora Caves, another UNESCO World Heritage Site, and one of the largest rock-cut Hindu temple cave complexes in the world. While the group was in Myanmar, Sayadaw had an opportunity to spend some extra time in Yangon with his father, older brother, and 2 younger sisters. He'd brought with him 2 boxes of old pictures, photos from his younger days as a monk in the country, as well as images taken years later of his time spent in Thailand, Sri Lanka, and India, which he gave to his family. Las Vegas Sayadaw, with his father, younger sister Win Win, older brother, the future U.S. Andawara, and another younger sister in Myanmar in 1995. The photo was taken at a supporter's family home during Sayadaw's first trip back to Myanmar since leaving in 1988. Finding a balanced approach, Sayadaw later reflected on some of the adjustments he had to make as he settled into his position as abbot of a new Burmese monastery that was substantially supported by Thai people. 111 Las Vegas Sayadaw. When I was the abbot of Wat Buddha Bhavana, I was too busy to do anything extra, like write Dhamma books or do other things. But when I left the Thai temple, I had more time to practice meditation. I didn't get involved with things like paying bills because now I had our director to take care of that. I was also able to focus on my primary duty, which was mainly teaching the community. Over time, as more monks came to live at the temple, and there was greater diversity amongst the membership of the temple community, Sayadaw had to consider everyone's needs. Whatever we do, we should not think only about ourselves, but about others as well. We should know the time, the place, and the people impacted, and then make our decisions. Even though I was the abbot, I couldn't force the monks or the community to do something that I wanted to do. It's not my temple, it's for the community. One of Sayadaw's first modifications had to do with daily chanting practice. When you stay at a Thai temple, they often chant for an hour or more each time. We did a lot of chanting when I lived at Wat Buddha Bhavana. But eventually, Americans started to join us from time to time. And they didn't know how to chant in Thai. So now, at Chaya Meditation Monastery, we chant only briefly, often for just 15 minutes, and focus our efforts mainly on meditation. We had to adjust our approach for our guests. In Myanmar, temple communities don't do morning or evening chanting. In Thailand, on the other hand, This chanting is traditionally done every day in temples across the country. In Burma, we did Parita chanting instead. 112. The early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. On Sunday, we might do Ratana Sutta, Mangala Sutta, and maybe another one. Then, on Monday, we'd do another couple of Parita chants. We had a schedule for every day of the week. We'd know which Parita was chanted on which day of the week. There are 11 Parita chants, and in 1 week we'd complete them all. Parita are protective verses chanted in order to ward off ill and create blessings. Such protective chants, comprising passages from the Pali Canon and traditional verses in praise of the Triple Gem, are traditionally chanted by monastics and lay Buddhists in Theravada Buddhist countries on auspicious occasions. Sometimes we would chant Dhamma Chakkapavatana Sutta, Anatalakkhana Sutta, the Buddha's second discourse, during which he delivered his not-self doctrine, or maybe we'd chant another sutta. But we did Parita chanting every day. It's not like that in Thailand. The system is different in Burma. The Burmese like to chant Parita, and even lay people can chant it. It's the same in Sri Lanka too. They don't do morning and evening chanting either. When I first came to Wat Buddhabhavana, I had to keep a chanting book in front of me, because I hadn't yet memorized the morning and evening chanting. Eventually, I didn't need the book anymore. I just followed the Thai tradition while I was living there. Sayadaw realized that he needed to find a balance between the traditions of the temple's many Thai supporters and the multicultural membership otherwise forming within the community. So because we had so many Thai people coming to Chaya Meditation Monastery, I decided to keep doing the morning and evening chanting I'd learned when I first came to Las Vegas. 113, Las Vegas Sayadaw. But now we just do it for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. They do chanting for much longer in a regular Thai temple, where their practice is mainly based on chanting. Now, though, I see Burmese people, American people, Sri Lankan people, and others coming to our temple. How can we do only Thai chanting? That's why we do it, just briefly, so everyone can do it together. But the last chant we do each morning and evening is in Burmese. The Thai people can't do that one, though. So the Thais can't follow the Burmese chanting, and the Burmese can't follow the Thai chanting, and that's not right. Sayadaw came up with a partial solution to the dilemma. So I wrote the Burmese chant in Thai for the Thai people. So now they can read it. The accent isn't quite right, but it's close. But the American visitors still can't read it. I'm sorry about that. Sayadaw also had to consider the best way to transition the community to a meditation-focused approach to practice. In a meditation center, or Pati monastery, in Myanmar, like Mahasi Sasana Yektha Meditation Center, where I did my intensive retreats those first 3 summers I was in Rangoon, they practice meditation the whole day. On the other hand, in study, or Pariyatti monasteries, such as the one I lived and taught at while I was in Rangoon, they might just meditate a little in the morning and evening. Other temples might just do it in the evening. Mostly, though, in Pariyatti monasteries they study a lot. In some of them they might study during the day and practice meditation at night. It depends on their tradition, and traditions can be quite different. 114 The early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. And, as I said, most Thai temples use chanting practice as their primary form of meditation. So this was a third approach. He realized that he needed to consider what was best for the overall temple community. Slowly, I began to transition our temple to a meditation schedule of 4 times a day. I'd like us to wake at 3 a.m., but some people don't want to wake up that early. But we're a meditation center, so we have to meditate at least 4 times a day. And a lot of people come for silent retreats too, so we also offer an adjusted schedule to accommodate that. I had to consider the time, the place, and the community itself. But 4 times a day became our permanent meditation schedule. In time, Sayadaw succeeded in blending the various cultures to support everyone's backgrounds and practices. There was now traditional chanting twice a day in Thai and Burmese, with chanting books offered in Pali and Roman script for Americans and others. almost 4 hours of silent sitting meditation each day, and the regular offering of Dhamma and Abhidhamma classes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. As soon as the monastery had opened its doors at the 2-story home at Tropicana and Buffalo, the community began searching for a large Buddha statue for the shrine room. In early 1996, a family of Thai supporters flew to Bangkok, where they selected a suitable statue for the new monastery. The statue was purchased, and through Sayadaw's friendship with the president of Thai Airways, who lived in Los Angeles, it was shipped to its new home in Las Vegas. It would become the central Buddha image of Chaya Meditation Monastery for decades to come. With the community still settling into its new home, Sayadaw received word from Myanmar that he'd lost another sister to early death. 115 Las Vegas, Sayadaw. His mother had died decades earlier while he was still a teenager, and another sister had died some 6 years earlier, around 1990. Now, only months after he'd seen her in Yangon, Sayadaw's family suffered another loss. It was now only his father, his older brother, and his younger sister Win-Win left amongst Sayadaw's immediate family. Near the end of 1996, Fra Arom, the new monk who'd ordained at Wat Buddha Bhavana in order to assist Sayadaw during his intensive retreat and had been Sayadaw's only monastic companion as Chaya Meditation Monastery was being established, decided after 18 months in robes to disrobe. As a replacement, another Thai man soon took temporary ordination and stayed a while with Sayadaw to help him out at the new monastery. Sayadaw needed a long-term solution to the growing demands of a young monastery that was anticipating expansion. In 1997, he reached out to his former student, U Zotika, in Myanmar and asked him if he'd finished his university studies yet. When the young monk replied that he had, Sayadaw asked him if he'd like to come to the United States to help him at the new monastery. Indeed, he would. U Zotika accepted the invitation. He arrived later that year and established himself at Chaya Meditation Monastery. Shortly after, the temporary monk who'd replaced Fra Arom disrobed. It was now just Sayadaw and U Zotika as the resident monks at Chaya Meditation Monastery. Mercury Sayadaw. In the mid-1970s, Sayadaw had lived for a short time with a senior monk called U Satila at Thatanaudaya Pariyati in Rangoon. The two monks had grown very close. Around 1976 or 1977, U Satila left that monastery and became the abbot of a temple about 10 miles from downtown. Although the temple was informally called 10-Mile Temple, it was also known by two other names. Thathanabiman. Thathana is the Burmese equivalent of the Pali word sasana, and Baiman means mansion. And Ang Zedi, which was the name of a pagoda on the property. U Satila came to be called Ang Zedi Sayadaw, 116 the early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. The two monks had stayed in touch and remained close even after Las Vegas Sayadaw left Burma in 1988. In 1997, Sayadaw reached out to U Satila and invited him to Las Vegas for a visit. The elderly monk happily accepted. During the visit, U Satila shared something interesting with Sayadaw. He said that he'd made 2 Buddha statues out of mercury, one of which weighed 265 pounds. The other one, which he'd made first, was much smaller. Sayadaw was intrigued. Myanmar has a colorful history of alchemy, and the conversion of a liquid like mercury into a solid was fascinating to him. Some Burmese wizards, as they've sometimes been called, are also said to be able to metamorphose certain metals, commonly mercury, into gold. Sayadaw asked U Satila how he'd used mercury, a liquid which disappears when touched by fire, to make a Buddha statue. U Satila explained to him that he'd had a dream. In the dream, a monk was teaching him the secrets of alchemy. Then, the monk suddenly disappeared from his dream. The day after his dream, U Satila had been visited by a high-ranking Burmese government official and his cabinet. They came to pay their respects to him. As they talked, U Satila told the official and his cabinet members about his unusual dream. The official was inspired, He offered to sponsor the creation of a Buddha statue to be made out of mercury. Soon, the official had 8 boxes of mercury delivered to the temple and commissioned artisans to make the statue. A group of some 50 esteemed officials eventually assembled for a ceremony as the Buddha statue was being made. The mercury was brought to a boil. A group of devas then possessed the bodies of the artisans. Human beings weren't themselves capable of converting mercury to a solid, and they were dancing and singing, Usatila said. It was amazing. Something unseen made the statue. Humans couldn't do this. This first mercury Buddha statue had been modeled after a revered 650-year-old Buddha statue in Usatila's hometown. The famous statue was known as Panchello Halabhamuni. When Usatira moved to Rangoon, he'd brought with him a photograph of the famous statue. Every morning and evening, visitors to the monastery would offer water 117 Las Vegas sayadaw to the photograph. One day, a glass of water that had been offered to the photograph turned into 9 Buddha relics. The creation of the mercury Buddha statue in the presence of esteemed government officials had made Usatila very famous in Myanmar, and people had started to call him Mercury Sayadaw. As he finished recounting the story, Mercury Sayadaw told Las Vegas Sayadaw that if he swallowed a little bit of mercury mixed with honey every day, he would have a long life. He took some of it himself every day, he said. The elder monk then said, "If you'd like that first statue I made, come to Yangon and you're welcome to have it." Las Vegas Sayadaw accepted the generous offer and began making plans for a trip to Myanmar to receive it. Around 1998, Sayadaw made his second trip back to Myanmar, a very short trip, simply to pick up the mercury Buddha statue that Mercury Sayadaw had offered him. He flew to Yangon and met with his old friend, staying just a short time at Ongzadi. Sayadaw received the heartfelt gift from Mercury Sayadaw and found that the statue was perhaps 15 inches tall and surprisingly heavy. He would further reflect years later on how very quiet the monastery had been. After he left Ongzadi, Sayadaw stopped to pay his respects at Yangon's Shwedagon Pagoda. The sacred gilded pagoda, standing nearly 400 feet tall, is said to contain relics of the last 4 Buddhas, including 8 strands of hair from Gautama Buddha, a piece of the robe of Kassapa Buddha, the water filter of Konagamana Buddha, and the staff of Kakusanda Buddha. He still had some time before he had to go back to the airport for his return flight to Las Vegas, so Sayadaw decided to wander a bit around a nearby market. As he explored the market with a lay patron who'd offered to drive him to the airport, something caught Sayadaw's eye, an antique Buddha statue perhaps 250 years old, whose style was remarkably similar to the mercury Buddha statue he now had in his possession. Sayadaw curiously asked the vendor how much she was asking for the old statue. "Don't ask," she replied. "It's too expensive for you." Sayadaw's lay patron spoke up and again asked the vendor how much she was asking for the old statue. 118, the early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. 3,500 kyat. That was a bit more than $100 in those days. The lay patron bought the statue and then offered it to Sayadaw as a gift. Soon, Sayadaw was on his plane and headed back to America. He brought both statues back with him to their new home at Chaya Meditation Monastery, where decades later he would share these fascinating stories with a lay student. The Chaya Meditation Monastery community had really appreciated having Mercury Sayadaw around when he'd visited their monastery in 1997. Around 1998, the laity encouraged Sayadaw to invite the elder for another visit. This time, Mercury Sayadaw stayed for a month, and he didn't come alone. When I invited Mercury Sayadaw to come again, I also reached out to my last sister, Win-Win, and offered to sponsor her in coming to the United States. So Mercury Sayadaw, a nun, Win-Win, and a friend of my sister all traveled here together from Myanmar. A strange thing happened during Mercury Sayadaw's visit to the United States. He'd brought the Panskalo Halabamuni Buddha statue with him and took it to this doctor's home in Los Angeles. A lot of people started going there to pay their respects to the statue and take pictures of it. When the film was developed, this was before everyone had digital cameras. Sometimes the background was red and sometimes it was green. Sayadaw had an explanation. No scientist believes any of this. But it was because of Mercury Sayadaw's good karma. 119 Las Vegas Sayadaw Pankalo Halapamuni Win-Win and her friend decided to stay on and settle in Las Vegas. They soon started coming to Chaya Meditation Monastery every Wednesday to offer breakfast to the community. It would become a beautiful and generous tradition they would maintain for more than 20 years. 120. The early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. Sayadaw would later remark to a student that Win-Win has a very good heart. Perhaps the assertion that Mercury Sayadaw had made about the benefits of eating the mercury and honey solution was true. He would eventually die in 2021 at the age of 101. An unexpected visitor one Vasa while Sayadaw was tucked away on his annual silent meditation retreat. Chaya Meditation Monastery received an unexpected visitor. Ajahn Nikorn, whom Sayadaw had twice led on pilgrimage around Burma with the former's followers in 1987 and 1988, showed up at the monastery one day. Having become good friends, the two monks had traveled together around Thailand in 1988 and 1989, and around India in 1989. Ajahn Nikorn, now a layperson dressed in white, had disrobed around 1990. He eventually found himself in Las Vegas and looked up Sayadaw at his new monastery, though the master had been unavailable to meet with him at the time. The two men never saw each other again. Ajahn Nikorn died in 2020. In late 1998, another one of Sayadaw's monastic disciples from Myanmar accepted his invitation to come to America and join him at the monastery. U Silasara would be a part of the Chaya Meditation Monastery community for many years, until he eventually relocated to Oregon in 2013. In the meantime, an American man from Arizona contacted Sayadaw and requested bhikkhu ordination. The new monk lived at Chaya Meditation Monastery for 7 months before eventually deciding to disrobe and return to lay life in Arizona. In 1999, Sayadaw received word from Myanmar that his father had died in Yangon. He soon made arrangements for his third trip back to Myanmar, this time for his father's funeral. While there, he stayed with Mercury Sayadaw at Ong Zaydi. 121 Las Vegas Sayadaw, Las Vegas Sayadaw, next to his father's casket, Yangon, Myanmar, 1999. In October of 2002, Sayadaw had an unusual dream that would play a direct role in setting the ambience at Chaya Meditation Monastery even decades down the road. He'd share the story of his dream with a student almost 20 years after it happened. The story of the Guanyin statue in our garden is very interesting. On the last night of the Vasa, in 2002, I dreamed a very special dream. In my dream, I was flying around in the air like a bird, but I didn't know where to go. Then I looked down and saw a lady about 40 years old below me. She came out from a building and raised her hands toward the sky to welcome me. In my dream, I knew right away that she was Guanyin. Then I woke up, also known as Avalokitesvara, Chenrezig, and Kannon. Guanyin is a central figure in Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism. Guanyin is a bodhisattva embodying the compassion of all Buddhas. At the end of Vasa every year, people from Los Angeles come to the temple at 2 a.m. to welcome me back from my annual meditation retreat. They always wait for me downstairs. They do this every year. 122 The early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. So I came down for the end of that Vasa and eventually had breakfast. After breakfast, one lady came up to me and told me about a dream she had. She asked me whether or not I thought it was a good omen. I then thought about my dream and said to her that I'd also had an interesting dream the night before. Sayadaw recounted the vivid details of his dream. The lady then begged me to bring a Guanyin statue to Chaya Meditation Monastery. She said, "Please order it, and I will donate the money." She donated $1,200 right there. Then another person who was sitting nearby donated $700. Then another person donated $500. In just a few minutes, people had donated $3,000 for a statue. It happened very quickly. Sayadaw called Mercury Sayadaw in Yangon and asked for his help. I told him that I wanted a Guanyin statue for the monastery. I asked him to help me get a 7-foot-tall statue. 6 months later, it arrived. The impact of Sayadaw's unusual dream would live on. Quite a few years later, when we were building the temple complex on Virtue Court, we designed the garden in the northwest corner of the property to look just like what I'd seen in my dream. It had the Guanyin statue, the building that the woman in my dream had come out of in order to welcome me. That's now the structure over the Guanyin statue, and we even built columns with birds on them, just like in my dream. Later, we also built the pagoda, which had been a part of my dream. 123 Las Vegas Sayadaw. Sometimes confused visitors will ask Sayadaw why there's a Guanyin statue at Chaya Meditation Monastery. They might say, "We're Theravada Buddhists. We don't venerate Guanyin." This was all because I was flying around in my dream and didn't know where I was going. Many years after I had my dream, perhaps around 2014, the local Mahayana Buddhist community began inviting monks from Taiwan or mainland China or even Canada to come to Las Vegas for some special chanting that they do. They venerate Guanyin as their Buddha. So I agreed to start letting them use our main hall at Chaya Meditation Monastery to do it. There would be about 200 people here reciting their chants from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. One evening, after they were finished with their chanting, they went outside by the main hall doors. When they did, they looked up into the night sky and saw these interesting clouds being illuminated by the city lights. One of the clouds was shaped like Guanyin, so they started taking video and prostrating to it. This story of our Guanyin statue is amazing. Asterisk. One of Sayadaw's earliest students and supporters upon his arrival in the United States was a Thai woman who'd followed him from Wat Buddha Bhavana to Chaya Meditation Monastery. Around mid-2004, the woman asked him for ordination as an 8-precept nun, or Meichi. She was soon ordained and given the Buddhist name Madhavi, which in Pali, Madhavi, means wise. Nun Madhavi joined Sayadaw, Uzavtika, whom the temple's many Thai supporters started to call Then Cho and Usilasara as a resident of Chaya Meditation Monastery. 124, the early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. While the 3 monks lived upstairs, Nun Madhavi lived alone downstairs. Robes, a student, had noted that although Nun Madhavi and temporary Meichi at Chaya Meditation Monastery wear brown robes, nuns in Myanmar can sometimes be seen wearing pink robes. The student asked Sayadaw about the 2 robe colors. Burmese practice, Pachipati, traditions use brown. For instance, Paok Forest Monastery uses brown. Study, Pariyati traditions use pink. The student had also noted that while Burmese monks are usually seen wearing reddish or maroon robes, Sayadaw had in recent years begun wearing brown robes. The color is simple and not so bright, and it's kind of like we're an army. That is, our tradition comes from the jungle, and so we should blend in with our surroundings. The Buddha allowed us to wear robes that match with our region. I prefer wearing the brown robes. In Thailand, you have the Maha Nikaya and the Dhammayut Nikaya. The latter's monks wear brown robes, while the former's mostly wear very bright robes. I don't like the bright robes. I like simple, soft-colored robes. In Myanmar, you mostly see brown or red robes. The bright yellow or orange you see in Thailand is very rare. Sayadaw elaborated. In Myanmar, it's not like Thailand, where the different orders wear robes of a certain color. Where I come from, the monks use whatever is available to them. We're not attached to this color or that color for a specific order. 125 Las Vegas Sayadaw. Whatever you want to wear is fine, but in Myanmar about 90% of the monks wear maroon or brown robes. You see almost no yellow robes. Meditation monks in particular use brown robes. One of the other resident monks at Chaya Meditation Monastery would later add some additional context. You see many different robe colors in Myanmar these days. Some monks want to wear red, some want to wear yellow, and so on. It doesn't matter what color the monk's robes are, it's not important. The monk then offered some insight into Sayadaw's choice to wear brown robes. Sayadaw wore red robes until perhaps 2013, when he started to wear brown robes that were similar in color to the forest monks of Thailand. He did this because most of the donors who support Chaya Meditation Monastery are Thai. They donate everything, and they do it every day. So to honor their intentions and their culture, he decided to wear the brown robes of the Thai meditation tradition. In July 2005, a nun from Myanmar joined Sayadaw and the other residents at Chaya Meditation Monastery for the Vasa. Sayadaw had known the nun since she was very young, having met her when he was still living in Rangoon. Even then, she would come to pay her respects to him before and after each Vasa. Today the nun has her own temple in Mandalay. Near the end of that year, the two-story monastery residence at Tropicana and Buffalo was sold for $300,000, triple what the community had paid for it, in order to move forward with construction of a new monastery complex on the land near Rainbow and Warm Springs that the community had purchased in 1995. 126 The early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. As they prepared for construction to begin, the community rented a temporary home for Sayadaw and the other residents at Sahara and Torrey Pines Drive, where they could live until the new property was ready for move-in. As Sayadaw strategized the eventual transition to the larger monastery property, he recognized that it would require considerably more upkeep. He soon began to recruit additional monks to join him and the other residents in Las Vegas. Recruitment. In early 2006, Sayadaw returned to Myanmar on pilgrimage. One day, a senior Palung monk from Namsan came to see him. The monk's name was Umagenda, and he was a friend of Sayadaw's brother. Sayadaw's brother had told Umagenda that Sayadaw would be coming to Myanmar and suggested the two monks find an opportunity to meet. Umagenda had recently graduated from university in the city with his BA degree, and he expressed interest to Sayadaw in coming to the United States. Sayadaw replied, "I need some monks. If you want to stay with me, I'll help you get a visa." Sayadaw's brother knew another monk from quite close to where they had grown up. That monk was also interested in coming to the United States. The young monk, whose name was Ashin Uttara, had worked on his family's tea farm in North Kunhat village before deciding one day to enter the monkhood. He'd since gone to university and completed his degree. Hearing of the young monk's interest, Sayadaw encouraged his brother to have Ashin Uttara, whom he wouldn't have occasion to meet until he eventually arrived in Las Vegas, begin his visa application process as well. Although Umagenda and Ashin Uttara were interested in coming to the United States to help Sayadaw as the new monastery complex was being developed, they were also interested in obtaining a degree of freedom and independence not easily found in Myanmar, a country that 127 Las Vegas Sayadaw continued its decades-long struggle with oppressive cultural and political turmoil. The political situation at the time could make it difficult to get a visa, and it would be nearly 3.5 years before the two monks could secure passage to the United States. Around late 2006, a 65-year-old Burmese man formally requested bhikkhu ordination from Sayadaw. U Waziranyana soon took ordination with Sayadaw as his preceptor. Before becoming a monk, U Waziranyana had been married and worked as a seaman. He'd also worked for 3 years in a factory in Japan. One day his wife decided that she wanted to move to the United States. U Waziranyana wasn't interested, but he encouraged her to go without him. She ended up in Guam. After she settled, she sent him some photos of her beautiful new surroundings. Situated in the Western Pacific, Guam is a U.S. island territory punctuated by gorgeous tropical beaches with clear blue-green water. Wazir Anyana was impressed, and so he decided to join his wife after all. Eventually, a serious health issue caused Wazir Anyana and his wife to travel to Los Angeles, but they soon settled a few hours' drive away in Las Vegas. They found and moved into a home not far from Chaya Meditation Monastery's previous location near the intersection of Tropicana and Buffalo. One day, Wazir Anyana decided to go to the monastery's temporary rental home at Sahara and Torrey Pines Drive to pay his respects to the monks in residence. There, he met Sayadaw. As they talked, Sayadaw commented to him that perhaps he should consider ordaining as a monk. "For how long?" the elderly visitor asked. "Don't worry about it," Sayadaw replied. Wazir Anyana soon took bhikkhu ordination, and once a week for more than 15 years since his ordination, Wazir Anyana's former wife has offered breakfast to the monastic community at Chaya Meditation Monastery. 128. The early CMM years 1995 to 2008. Las Vegas Sayadaw, with members of the Chaya Meditation Monastery community, on pilgrimage at Ta Prohm at Siem Reap, Cambodia, November 2007. In mid-November 2007, Sayadaw led members of the Chaya Meditation Monastery community. In 2007, the situation in Burma wasn't good once again. The Burmese government had been arresting people who spoke out against their policies, and it was no longer safe for foreigners to visit. A group of us had initially planned to go on pilgrimage to Burma and India that year, but because of the conflict in Burma, we decided to visit Cambodia and Nepal instead. While in Cambodia, the group focused the bulk of their attention on Siem Reap province in the country's northwest. There, they visited Angkor Wat, at nearly 402 acres, the largest religious complex in the world. It was constructed in the early 12th century as a Hindu temple, but converted to a Buddhist temple by the end of the century. It eventually became the country's most significant tourist attraction, and it has been argued that Angkor Wat played a major role in the conversion of Cambodia into a Buddhist nation. The group also visited the tree-covered 13th-century Mahayana Buddhist monastery and university Ta Prohm, as well as Banteay Shray, a 129 Las Vegas Sayadaw, beautiful 10th-century temple built of red sandstone and dedicated to the Hindu god Shiva. Las Vegas Sayadaw in Cambodia, November 2007. Although this was Sayadaw's first time in Cambodia, he'd visited Nepal 3 times previously while traveling around India. "I'd always gone to Nepal to visit Lumbini, the Buddha's birthplace, which is only about 20 miles from India, but this time we decided to fly to Kathmandu as well." I knew the owner of a casino in Kathmandu because he used to live in Las Vegas. While we were in Kathmandu, my friend took us to visit a famous dome-shaped Tibetan stupa, with bells surrounding it in the middle of all the city activity. It was called Buddhanath Stupa. We spent 2 days exploring the area. Sayadaw's friend then took the group to see Everest. We went by car up into the mountains, passing many resorts. The roads weren't very good, so it was slow and very difficult travel. And we had a big car, so we had to drive carefully up and down through the hills and valleys as we ascended. 130. The early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. The group had started driving in the afternoon and finally got to where they were staying about 6 p.m. They'd planned to stay in the area for a few days. Early the next morning, the weather was good, and so we had a clear view of Everest. Las Vegas Sayadaw at Angkor Wat, November 2007. Life is choice. A student once asked Sayadaw whether all beings in the celestial realms know the Dhamma. Just like in the human world, some know it and others don't. Anyone who does good, whether Hindu or Christian or Muslim or whatever, can be reborn in a celestial realm. If a human being wasn't interested in Dhamma or meditation, they could still be reborn in the celestial world without ever knowing about the Dhamma. The hell realm is the same. It doesn't belong to any particular religion. Any person who does bad things, Buddhist or Muslim or Hindu or Christian, can be reborn there. 131. Las Vegas Sayadaw. The student had another question. In the human world, we are very lucky to hear the Dhamma. Is it the same in heaven? They have Buddhist holidays in heaven too. Devas will go listen to the Dhamma. Here in Las Vegas, people come for the casinos, for entertainment, but they seldom come to the temple or go to a church. It's the same thing in heaven. Some devas will go out for singing or dancing, but won't go to hear Dhamma talks. The situation is very similar to the human world. Sayadaw once wrote a book that touched upon this matter. I wrote a book talking about special vacations being like going to hell. People come to Las Vegas for 1 or 2 weeks for a special vacation at the casinos. But how many of those people are interested in the Dhamma? Some will search online for a meditation center and end up here, but very few. There is good and bad everywhere. Life is choice. Where do you want to go? You can choose. It's the same in the celestial world. Some devas are happy with lobha and raga, and go off enjoying singing and dancing, forget to eat, and then die. The student was also curious how beings end up in different celestial realms. The 6 celestial realms are different. They get better and better as you go higher. Why might someone be reborn in a particular plane? It depends on their desire. 132. The early CMM years, 1995 to 2008. Even with the highest level, the best level, someone may not want to be reborn there, even though they may be qualified, have the good karma, to go there. It's the same in the human world. You might study for 5 to 6 years and become an engineer. You might be qualified to not only get the job, but you might also qualify to be the boss. But if you don't want to be the boss, you just want a regular position, it's your choice. What about if you want to be reborn in a particular celestial realm but you're not qualified? The student asked. What realm will you be reborn in? It's based on our karma. It shapes our destiny. It doesn't matter what level. If you're qualified and have the desire, it's up to you where you go. The student had another question. How hard is it to get into heaven? It depends. If we do many good things, it's easy to go to heaven. If someone was a monk, asked the student, would they automatically go to heaven when they die? It depends on our karma. If he does bad things, a monk can go to hell. A monk can become an animal too. Even the Buddha-to-be was an animal before. Bad karma is like going to jail, like our punishment. 133.